Underground Bunker. This is your proprietor, Tony Ortega. I am joined once again by Mark Bunker, who on Wednesday night went to a city council meeting, which they're not usually held on Wednesday, I believe. And once again, they put Scientology on the agenda, in particular, this communication from Florida's Attorney General. And if you remember, David Miscavige has been asking for the city to give him a short little street to complete his L. Ron Hubbard Hall project. And at the last second, he pulled out the petition because it would look like it was going to go down to defeat 3-2. And very embarrassing for Miscavige. And apparently, we have to conclude they must have gone whining to the state government because the state attorney general, this James Uthmeyer, who's been AG for just a few months, wrote a letter to Mayor Bruce Rector warning him about how to treat Scientology in this. Two main points, and I know you're going to go into this and help us understand this better. One was he was saying, listen, you can't make a sale contingent on forcing the person, David Miscavige, to develop other parcels. That's against the law. And second of all, that Rector himself had used language that Uthmeyer characterized as religious discrimination. In other words, they don't want this deal specifically because it's Scientologists. Well, look, to those of us who understand something about the history of this town, these were both pretty outrageous characterizations. And I don't know. My impression was the city council wasn't going to take it too seriously, but then apparently Ryan Cotton put it on the agenda for Wednesday night's meeting. I'm glad you were there. Please tell us what went down.
Well, I'm glad I was there as well. And I thank Ryan for putting it on the agenda because I think any time we have a chance to discuss this, it's a good opportunity to to get out some important information. And Ryan again seems so he seems like very intent on making this happen. And he went into how he was on the phone today with the state attorney general's office talking to the assistant and just ironing out what's going on, what can we do, what he still seemed to think that there is a real possibility of a lawsuit from Scientology, and Ryan was kind of warning the council without saying it. Oh, could be trouble if we don't do this. And the mayor, Bruce Rector, actually was in his very mellow way saying, "No, well, I mean, that letter was written to me, not to the city. And, there's nothing to worry about. I've been an attorney for years. This is not anything that's a legal threat. So I don't think we have anything to worry about."
Interesting.
That did not satisfy Ryan necessarily. And Mike Menino, the other person who voted yes, we desperately need to give this street to Scientology, Mike was also still on board with that sale. Um, it wasn't a lengthy discussion. There wasn't a lot of meat to it, just a lot, just kind of a back and forth. Well, it's serious. No, it's not. Well, yeah, I think it is. No, not really. And then I had a chance to get up and speak for my 3 minutes. I didn't really plan anything this time. It was kind of late notice, and I had other things I was working on. So I had some key things I wanted to say, and I think I got most of them out there. Um, never a welcoming party greeting me when I show up to speak, except for the folks who like the folks who work for City Hall who are there. There's one woman who's a fan of mine. We always hug, before every meeting. I always love seeing her. But by and large, I think there were people on the council who I think there's still enough votes that Slappy Miscavige is not going to get the street. But you never know. Things
Well,
can change.
I like the point that you I did watch you live, and I like the point that you made that one of the chief things Uthmeier is saying is that it's against the law to tell someone like the Church of Scientology in this situation, we will give you that street, but you need to develop these other parcels you have. In other words, putting a condition on the sale. Uthmeier is saying that is against the law. And you pointed out really well in your comments, you said the idea of David Miscavige developing those other parcels came from David Miscavige.
Mhm.
He's the one that. So, in other words, this guy Uthmeier doesn't know the background, and of course, he's only been AG for a short time. He's obviously going off of what he's been told, probably by Dave's attorneys, and they've probably mischaracterized the situation. But that's a great point. I mean, it's Dave that says, "Listen, give us the street. We're going to develop these other things. It's really going to help. You'll see." And the citizens said, "Well, you've had all this time. Do it. What are you waiting for?" So, and also this is all on the background that Scientology has, there's no question, bought up parcels as a tactic of control, as a way of punishing the city, as a way of controlling the town in the way it wants. There's just no question. And
Yep.
so, it's just this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about, this AG, obviously.
I'm not surprised. If he was appointed by our governor, he's probably no better than our who is it, the state general, surgeon general,
Well,
who's
he's a DeSantis guy. I mean, he came up
yeah,
through the DeSantis. Yeah, yeah. This is not some random dude.
he's already been held in contempt by one judge
Yep.
just a few days ago over an
Right.
immigration issue that he's ignoring her rulings. So, I don't think this is probably the best attorney that the state could have as attorney general, but what the heck?
Well,
He's the one we've got.
what did you think about the other? So I saw you address that point where it was Miscavige that was offering to, develop these other parcels. Um, and not that the city was twisting his arm or anything. And then the other point, though, that he made was that Bruce Rector had used some language that suggested religious discrimination. I mean, did the mayor didn't seem a little bit did he defend himself at all on that score?
No, that really wasn't at issue. I think he felt on secure grounds that this was not a religious thing. And one of the things I did this morning, I sent them this 4-minute video
Oh, you
that
did.
was made by the German government
Right.
called "How Not to Be Fooled by Scientology." 10 tips for how not to be fooled. And there's nothing in it. And I point out when I'm talking to them, there's nothing in it about religion.
Nope.
It's just their tactics. And it's something that you should be aware of and and consider. Do not be fooled by their tactics. If I'd had more time, I didn't really need it. I would have gone into the fact that in some countries, Scientology doesn't even pretend to be a religion. When they're not allowed to be a religion, they say we're an applied philosophy. And they
Right.
sell the same courses and the same auditing. It's the entire spiel, except no, we're not a religion. Okay, we're not a religion, but give us your money.
Yeah.
That's all we're interested in. And the entire thing um, it is a business that L. Ron Hubbard developed.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And I think that's my favorite of the tips was that if
yeah,
you're unsure, just look for the name L. Ron Hubbard. If you see the name L. Ron Hubbard in Scientology, and that's such smart advice because they've got these front groups that do their best to pretend not to be associated with Scientology. But at some point, they've got to put L. Ron Hubbard's name in there somewhere, and that's all you need to see. If you see L. Ron Hubbard's name in there, go the other direction.
Run.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they weren't thrilled to see the video and probably went, "Oh, there's another loon." But I wanted to make the point, as I did in my email to them, that not about religion, and it's in some countries not a religion, other countries religion. Eh. So
right.
we're not dealing with a religious issue by them lusting after the street.
Yeah, in Israel, they can't call themselves a church.
Yeah,
I've been
is
to
this
that.
something from charging people a fortune for their crap? No,
Yeah, I've been to that Ideal
no.
Oregon Jaffa. They can't call themselves a church there. And you're right. They don't care. It's like, fine, come on
Yeah.
in. Read the books we've got. We don't care. That's a
So
great point. That's an excellent point. Um, well, one of the ways that Scientology has been continuing to exert its control over Clearwater is something that Tracy McManus uncovered a few years ago after the city did not let David Miscavige get his clutches on a particular parcel downtown in 2017. He retaliated by having a bunch of parcels bought up by wealthy Scientologists. Now, Scientology
mhm.
officially denied that that had anything to do with the church, but of course, we know that this was all being done. These wealthy Scientologists were putting out millions of dollars to buy even more parcels because they were doing it for David Miscavige. We know that, and they eventually acknowledged it in some ways, I guess. This was before you got on the council, but um, what I found interesting is that Scientology itself, the official organizations, in this case, the Flag Service Organization, FSO, is still openly buying properties in Clearwater. This last week, we learned that they have bought some more properties on North Fort Harrison Avenue, some storefronts there that are on the opposite side of the street from the Clearwater Bank building and their little front group storefronts that were owned by optometrist Dr. Janelli.
Yeah.
Phil Jones told me that he never thought that he'd sell those, but I guess $5.5 million was the right price. I mean, isn't that proof, Dave, that I'm Dave, I'm sorry. Isn't that proof, Mark, that Dave is going to continue to just keep buying up every bit of that town as much as he can?
Well, Slappy, it sure looks like it. I mean, Tony, what
Sorry.
was I thinking? Uh, yeah, and I happened to stumble upon Dr. Gilbert Janelli as I went into the meeting tonight. I was shocked when I showed up at the library to see that there's a concert going on, and the library is right next to the amphitheater.
Right.
So there was no parking. The Scientology lots, which the city has worked out a deal that so for council meetings, people can park in the Scientology lot. Oh, now they're charging $30 to park there. So I said no, and I just drove around and actually I found a spot exactly where I used to park at the back of the Lisa McPherson Trust. Now the Way to Happiness building, and I thought, well, this is appropriate. Okay. In fact, I parked right by the back door, and you can look from the back door down the hallway to the other side. And I thought, I could just cut through here. I could because um, in the injunction they have listed the properties where I have access, and 33 North Fort Harrison is on the approved lists for where I'm supposed to be,
Oh,
and
wow.
Scientologists aren't. So I've never tested it, but I was thinking, well, let's see if it's open. Oh, of course, they were locked up. Nobody's there.
Yeah, nobody's
Uh,
there.
but I tested the door and I said, okay. I started walking around the block and I looked back and there was a security guard rushing up to the door, looking in there. Oh, what's up? I was amused by that. Um, So as I'm walking over to the library, then I passed Dr. Janelli in the parking lot of one of these buildings he just sold. And he's out there with a sign, parking, parking. And he was undercutting his new Scientology overlords. They were charging 30 bucks. He was charging 20 for his parking lot. And I said to him, did you just sell this parking lot to Scientology? Yes, but I leased it back. And he was telling me how smart he is. And he told me, listen, if you can't beat them, join them.
Wow, he said
And
that.
they made a great deal. And I put a lot of restrictions in the sale. For instance, everybody who's a tenant there currently, they can stay there until Scientology starts to renovate. Um, so okay, sure, you made a great deal. We'll see if Slappy sticks to it. Uh, but on the way out, I thought I'm just going to get a picture of him. So I drove up across the street from where he was, and I pulled up my iPhone, and I had it on video. I thought, let's get a little video. And I'm glad I did because he spotted me as I was pulling over to the side of the road, and he put up the sign in front of his face. And he stayed like that for a while and until he got bored with it, and then he started peeking over it. And then he sat down and finally decided he's never going to turn the camera off. I might as well just put the sign down and wave and give him a thumbs up. And uh, so, so I got a little footage of him there. And as I was driving past, he shouted at me, hey, Mark, you want a job? I got a job for you, 25 bucks an hour." I said, "No, thanks," and just drove away. Um, Dr. Janelli is not somebody that I ever trusted. In fact, when I got on the council, I was kind of warned about him. He was one of these property owners that was trouble.
Yeah.
Um, and I still met with him a few times, and he would just talk your ears off, and he would be, flattering you. And I know, okay, come on, cut it out. So he's telling me what a wonderful job I'm doing, and then because of freedom of information, we see the emails that all the other council members get, and so I could see that uh, he was saying horrible things about me to the other council people. At
Oh
least one of the. So
man.
it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, you love me. I know you love me, and boy, I sure would love to work for you.
Yeah. Wow. Well,
So it
thank.
was an exciting, quiet evening.
Well, I thought we were kind of just going to have to wait to see if Dave reintroduces that petition, but it is kind of an interesting
Hmm.
news. In the meantime, I'm glad you went to that. Thank you very much. I'm glad you spoke. Um, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, well, let me ask you this. Brooks Gibbs has said that this was a blunder on David Miscavige's part, that by going to the AG like this, by getting that letter, it's going to backfire on him. Do you have some sense of why Brooks thinks that?
I don't. He was there tonight. We didn't talk about that at all. He's got another project he's working on that no one is not ready to be announced. But he's he was one of the few people who was there. In fact, I didn't even see him in the room. I saw him once we were leaving. Erica was there. She was the only other critic in the place. We sat together. Um, but the parking situation chased everyone else away. I think there was word put out that this was on the agenda for tonight, and I expected a crowd of people. But everyone like me came up and looked around and went, 30 bucks? I think I'll go home. Um,
What was the concert?
I don't even know. I didn't check.
I'll
There was
look it up.
something
I'll
playing.
look it up
There's
for the
some.
notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
$30 a park, man.
Yep. Yep. It is outrageous, and we need more parking down there. And that's why I said we need to use eminent domain to take Scientology's parking lot and put up a parking structure there.
Mm,
Did they listen to me? No.
yeah.
But if I get back on the council, they'll listen then.
Good. Good. Very good. All right. Well, I was just wondering, we also got to write this week about Eugene Ingram. And I meant to ask you, do you have some Eugene Ingram run-ins in your career?
Never,
Really?
never. Yeah, I've never seen him.
Hmm.
I don't know if that what came before me, and he had stopped by the time I started doing anything in '99, essentially.
No, no,
No,
he was
he's still
their
around.
he was their chief thug from 82 to 2012.
Wow.
30 years.
Now I'm not aware of any involvement with me.
Okay.
But then again, Scientology really, did not do a lot about me. They didn't have a website up after like '99. Once I started putting video on the web, it seemed like they really backed off on
Hmm. Okay.
confronting me. So
You know why? Because you scare them, Mark.
I do. I do. Look at this.
I know. You're a scary dude.
No, I think I just embarrassed him with the camera,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if Ingram came around me and I had good footage of it,
Yeah.
people would have seen it.
Right. All right. Well, listen, thank you very much. And I guess we're just gonna have to wait to see if Dave reintroduces that petition. And in the me oh, and I was going to ask you,
When? When?
so FSO has purchased some more parcels on the west side of North Harrison Avenue. They already own all of the east side.
Mhm.
I can't help thinking at some point, is he trying to like create a closed campus and because and just shut down that part of town? Have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, no, not necessarily. In fact, when he purchased some property, well, they had a big uh, ribbon cutting ceremony for one of the buildings there on that block,
West
and
Coast
he
building?
told, yeah,
The West Coast building.
uh, yeah, and he told the city manager at the time, Bill Horn, last piece of property, our campus is complete. And
Wow.
then at the very same time, he was secretly buying up everything he could.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, you can trust what Miscavige says. Um, maybe he will come through and put businesses in here. I can't believe it's going to happen, but I mean, it's possible. Otherwise, yeah, we ought to just wall off the entire campus. Let them have it. It's the Vatican, for heaven's sakes. We'll put a wall around it, just like the Vatican, and there's it's the sovereign country of Hubertania.
But I've been to the Vatican. It's an attraction.
Sure,
It
of
doesn't
course.
doesn't repel people.
Right, and that's what Scientology should be. People should be able to come and gawk, hear the stories of Project Normandy, and it's a fascinating place to be. The city doesn't agree with me on that.
Yeah. Ah, well. Well, I'm glad you're still trying, Mark. Thank you so much, dude. And
Hey, thanks for checking in with me. I'm
yeah, right
glad you're
on.
following all this stuff.
Well, it's fascinating to me, and
Mhm.
I'm just always outraged by what they get away with. I mean, just the
Yep.
idea of the state attorney general stepping in for them is just mind-blowing at this point after all that's been publicized about them. It's incredible.
It is interesting, though. One of the comments that came from the discussion is, well, the state attorney general said he's not going to be involved at all. The state's not going to take um, a stand in this and join Scientology in some lawsuit. But it was putting his thumb on the scale.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll see. Thank you very much, Mark Bunker. We'll talk to you
Thank you.
later. Bye bye.
Bye.